got one question for you, Hanok. Has anything happened within like the last 24 hours that has totally messed you up emotionally?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
I have some very, very good news to share with everyone. My youngest daughter, Kira, gave birth yesterday, Baruch Hashem,
Yes.
to a baby boy, 9 pounds, 5 ounces, that's a big baby in my mind.
Well, I know that you don't do the naming until the 8th day, but I'm kind of voting toward ouch.
That's great. You know, it's funny you mentioned the naming because as I've been traveling around, heard that I'm going to become a Saba, a grandfather. You know, what's interesting is there is a custom. It's not halacha. It's a
Yeah.
custom, part superstition in the Ashkenazi Jewish community to name a baby boy only at his Brit Milah,
Mm-hmm.
the covenantal circumcision ceremony at day 8, or for a girl at the very first Torah reading that her father would attend. Now, the Torah is read publicly 3 times a week,
Mm-hmm.
Shabbat, Monday, and Thursday. So that's what we do. The Sephardi Jewish community, which is half of the Jewish people in the world, they will name after a living relative, in a as an honor. My side of the Jewish people doesn't. We named after deceased relatives.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting is how names come and go out of the Jewish lexicon. Let me explain what that means. Yiddish was the most popular Jewish language used for daily activities.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout Europe and other parts of the world, Jewish communities spoke Yiddish. In the same way, in the ancient Jewish world, we spoke Aramaic. So, an example, my brother has the name Banish. Banish was my maternal grandmother's father. Okay. I don't know how many times my brother has ever been called up to the Torah in his entire life, but okay.
Yeah.
The point is, Banish, no one, okay, outside of the Haredi, outside of the ultra-Orthodox community, no one speaks Yiddish anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And no one would use that name anymore. So names that had been popular once upon a time, whether it's Mendel, whether it's a whole variety of Yiddish names, all of a sudden disappear. So like you'll go to a Jewish cemetery and you'll see names that are no longer used,
Mm-hmm.
which is the same thing actually that happened 2,000 years ago with Aramaic. You know, people were named. Yeshua is a great example, actually. Just hit me. And probably the most well-known Aramaic name. But because, in the first couple of centuries, after particularly, with the Byzantine Christian persecution, and then the Arab conquest after 636, Jews stopped speaking Aramaic.
Mm-hmm.
It was replaced in the land of Israel by Arabic. So this whole naming thing is kind of interesting.
But
So,
the same thing happens anywhere. Okay, you can go to
sure.
a cemetery in the United States, and the like my grandmother's names, both my grandmothers, you would never hear those names anymore.
Yeah.
Names kind of move forward. When I grew up, it seemed like half of the population was named Mike or Michael, and now I don't hear that name quite as often.
Yeah.
This whole thing about the traditions, there's traditions in the South that are far different than traditions in the North, that
Yeah.
are far different than traditions in the People's Republic of California. Um, it's just the same thing. Now, there is an interesting thing. I cannot remember who I was talking with, but this thing about naming a boy, not giving the name until the eighth day. It was
Yeah.
told to me that, and again, I wish I could remember who it was. I know they were Jewish, but I can't remember which one. Not that you
That
guys all
narrows
look
it down a
alike or
bit.
anything, but I do have a lot of Jewish friends. Um, and they said this would give the parents an opportunity based upon the verse in Proverbs 22 of train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. This would give the parents a time period to really study the child. And
Interesting thought.
even those early days, they would be able to see personality traits in the child and therefore name the child in such a way that would be the direction of their life, which, by the way, in Judaism, the naming of the child is not really a flippant thing, is it?
No, no, it's taken very seriously.
Yeah,
I like what it was, whoever it was that shared with you. I'm thinking back to when my girls were young, and
exactly.
basically everyone that I knew was a young parent. That's not the way it tended to go. That there were all these arguments with parents and in-laws, for months in advance. You've got to name the kid after my great grand, whatever,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I do remember a number of funny instances where couples, for instance, would only discuss boy names
Uh,
because they were certain they were going to have a boy. This is before reveal parties became a
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And then, of course, or sonograms, weren't as commonplace as they are now. Make a long story short, all of a sudden, congratulations, you're the mother of a beautiful baby girl. And it's like,
there you
can't
go.
be because I don't have a name.
Yeah. Well, and for you, being someone that was raised in New York and has never mowed a yard, to name one of your daughters after a tractor was very unique.
Well, again, that's kind of an inside joke. So I guess we have to explain that. My eldest, Ayala, means female deer. Mike is referring to the John Deere tractor family.
Yeah,
See
the
what, I
Jewish
realized something.
the
Every
Jewish
once in a
version,
while,
the Jewish version, the
right?
Ayala Yochanan
Yeah.
Ayala, yes.
Every once in a while I'll watch an old episode of ours, and then I'll say, we did a lot of inside jokes on that one. So I think, from time to time, hopefully as our audience continues to expand, we'll explain those things.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we do have some serious things.
Yes.
On one note, there is an increase in the demolition of Arab buildings.
Yeah. It's, first of all, we've got a couple of, we've got, when people hear demolition of Arab buildings, there are two separate sections. One is the illegal Arab structures, and generally Israel doesn't demolish them. I mean, we acknowledge that it was illegal. We demolish the Jewish ones. We don't demolish the Arab ones. So there's a push to do that. And there's also now a more rapid response after a terror attack
Hmm.
to destroy the home of the terrorist, or in some cases of their parents.
There you go. Well, that would be a good thing. And there was a gold bead found at in the through the sifting project.
Yeah. So yet again, more and more information, more and more artifacts on the Temple Mount from the Beit HaMikdash, from the temple. And again, for all those wackadoodles, hopefully we don't have them listening to us, who insist for some bizarre reason that the temple was down in the city of David. there has never been a single artifact
Yeah.
in the city of David relating to the temple.
No, there is a toilet, but not an artifact from the temple. And we're not going to tell
That's
the inside
true.
joke about that one from the last Connect Israel tour. Okay, just leave it alone.
No, no, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's funny. I had forgotten that, but yeah, no, 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 no.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not worth repeating.
yeah. No, no, it shouldn't be repeated. So yeah, there's a lot going on regarding that. Speaking of sifting, of course, a massive earthquake in Turkey,
Yeah,
Syria, 7.8. The last report I got was a little over, maybe over 11,000 people have died in
yeah.
that. I've been in 6.5, I think was the
Wow.
largest one that I've ever seen. And, being in an air traffic control tower, 83 feet off the ground, in an earthquake is quite an experience in itself. But the magnitude of this one now, explain to us a little bit. This is the Syrio-African Rift, and we were just talking about this on the Connect Israel tour.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit more of the history and
Okay.
what they feel about this.
There's a major, let's call it volcanic um, possibility, a rift going all the way up through Africa, past Israel, up into Southern Europe, the area of Turkey, let's say. Every 100 years or so, there has historically been a major earthquake. Was this the one? Impossible to tell.
Yeah.
But of course, Israel, even though we've had really weird relations with Turkey over the years, Israel immediately is offering and has already sent rescue teams. We're really highly experienced in search and rescue.
Hmm.
And it reminds me of a number of years ago when they had the disaster in Haiti. Before the US and Canada got so much as a single doctor or nurse
Hmm.
on the ground, Israel had set up an entire field hospital functioning, despite the fact that we're at the other end of the world and the US and Canada are north. They could have flown down in a minute.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that Israel always runs to do these humanitarian projects.
It never gets really the credit for it, by the way.
No, no, but this is kind of in our DNA,
Yeah.
speaking of, naming and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen there's one of the training facilities is there along the coastline around the Herzliya
Yeah.
Netanya area, and yeah, because you guys have had to deal with demolition and survival things for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Let's go back briefly. Beit Shean is actually a remnant of a major earthquake, and
Which and that's actually why we have things that we can see and visit.
yeah.
The earthquake buried it, which actually protected it. Bizarre.
Hmm. And then the trade winds coming out of Africa actually put about 30 feet of dirt.
Yeah. It just kept accumulating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
So this what makes Beit Shean, you can go there, and we do a lot of times on the tour. We do spend a short amount of time in Beit Shean. You can actually see the remnants of the chariot tracks in the
Yeah.
Cardo there. Excuse me, the road running down the center. So I think it's a fascinating place to go.
Agreed. Agreed. One of the really intriguing things, um, one of the really intriguing archaeological sites of Israel. No Jewish content,
Yeah.
and but it gives you a real glimpse on the pagan world.
Yeah, it
really
was
does.
one of the Decapolis, one of the 10 Decapolis cities of the time of Yeshua 2,000 years ago. So here's a crazy thought for you. You mentioned Haiti and all these different places and how Israel responds
Right.
so rapidly. Of course, there's many Muslims and Palestinians standing next to them in these countries, helping with those efforts, right?
I thought I was the one that's supposed to be facetious. See, that's the thing that's amazing. With all of the oil wealth,
Hmm.
you would, I mean, but again, it's like I said, it's wired into our DNA.
Well,
The idea that someone could be helped and saved
mhm.
from, from death or being maimed or something is a huge thing. And ironically, people, you can't accuse us of doing it because of the accolades that we get and the fact that people in the US vote differently because of it. Ain't
Yeah.
never gonna happen.
Well, let's consider the DNA. Okay, you say it is wired into your DNA. I would say that it is wired into the United States, the DNA to help in times of disaster. But what is
Yeah.
in the DNA of Islam? And that is that they believe, and please correct me because I'm not the expert in Islam by any means, but it's my understanding they believe this is, these things are the will of their false god. And so, in order to, if they were to send help to that, then they are actually going against the will of their false god.
I'm sure they've never said it quite that way, but you know, they they don't think that way. They have no compassion for the world, for anyone else. And it's just it's kind of interesting to see the stark contrast between different types of ideologies,
Hmm.
different types of human response. I mean, every once in a while, you'll look at a news report somewhere, and someone does something horrific to another human being. And you wonder, like, how damaged could they have been to be so callous, to be so cruel, to be so savage?
Hmm. Well, let me balance my statement out a little bit by saying I have met very compassionate people that called themselves Muslims, but the overriding system that is Islam is
It's a
one.
system of conquest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. It is. The very essence of why do you have to build this shrine on somewhere is because it is about superiority. That's why in every town in Israel that has uh, a minaret, Muslim minaret, it has to be the highest point. It has to be over all of the other religious buildings. So this is their little thing there. But I have met some wonderful people that I believe are trapped by a system, and I guess I could say that of a lot of different religions.
yeah. It's really it's interesting. Um, there are good people everywhere in the world.
Mhm.
Maybe not a lot of them, but people who care about their neighbors, whose entire focus is not conquest, killing, and destruction, but rather, like, I want my kids to get a good education. I want them to grow up, marry supportive, caring, loving people, raise a family of their own,
Mhm.
get a job,
Get
normal
a
stuff.
job.
Get a
Get a
job.
job.
Get a
Yeah, that
job.
would be a great thing for a lot of people to do is get a job. They wouldn't have enough
Yeah.
time to post on Facebook.
Yeah, ain't nobody got time for that.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, you go back to 9/11. In Muslim countries, they were passing out candy. We know recent terrorist attacks in Israel that people die, and in Jenin and various places. Again, they're celebrating in the streets. I
Yeah,
just how I don't understand. I guess that level of hatred. Alok.
it's in areas in Israel controlled by the Palestinian Authority. On 9/11, they were doing the same thing,
Hmm.
giving out sweets, honking the horns, celebrating.
Hmm.
Um, so this is why, when American Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is meeting with Mahmoud Abbas and bending over backwards for the so-called Palestinian Authority, you kind of wonder, like, why doesn't the American government take note of of what we know? Why don't they? But that's not the way it works.
Well, I think the prophet Isaiah um, talked about a day that they will call good evil and evil good. It's not just that today we're people are calling out evil, but they're actually looking at evil and saying that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it is a world on many levels that has gone upside down. Now, speaking of upside down,
Oh,
I didn't watch any of Biden's address last night.
I didn't watch most of it, but I have it recorded just for the comedy relief act of it. Yes.
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. When I was kind of scrolling through the TV menu of what's coming up, and that they had all this timing blocked off. State of the Union address. I said, you know what? It's time for me to get into bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm done.
Somebody yesterday, I was actually, listening to some of the talk radio as I was driving around, probably on the way to pick you up for Mexican dinner last night. But somebody said that the State of the Union address was like the Grammys for ugly people.
Oh my God.
And when you looked at, I mean, I looked at it that last night. I was like, they might be onto something. That's crazy.
That's
Yeah.
kind of freaky.
Yeah,
That's kind
you ought to watch some of it. Just I mean, the of course the television and news programs and all that are going to blow up with it today, but it's a sad state of affairs. We are in a time period that wow, it's just remarkable some of the things that are going on. Now, oh, by the way,
of,
speaking of prophecy, you have over dinner last night, there is a term in Judaism of the footsteps of Mashiach. Now, I can't remember. I was going to look this up this morning. I didn't. It starts with I could.
Ikvite de Mashiach.
Okay.
It's Aramaic.
Okay. So
It's
that's
not
why I
Hebrew.
can't say it
Yeah,
because it's got way too many is in it. Okay.
yeah.
But you have found recently a total. I mean, we are in those days, right? What's
Yes. Okay. Well, it was said tongue in cheek, but to me, there really is an element there. Our finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, has extended an offer to Costco to come and open up a store in Israel, at least one. It doesn't mean they're going to do it, but the idea that someone thought of that other than me, traveling to America all these times, you go to a place like Sam's Club, Costco. First of all, it's hard to imagine how that would exist in Israel because the sizes of everything would be bigger than our kitchens.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's like when people said, at the beginning of COVID, how come you guys in Israel didn't stockpile toilet paper? And what's funny is there were a couple of American Israelis on some of these like secret Jerusalem Facebook groups that were saying, hey, how can I mean, I'm sure our American friends and relatives aren't wrong. Maybe we should be stuck. I mean, eventually the shortage will come to Israel. Again, please remember, we're talking about toilet paper for a respiratory virus. Okay, doesn't work anatomically, but okay. And I said to people, I said, if Israelis wanted to stockpile toilet paper, they'd probably be able to fit an additional 4 or 5 rolls.
Yeah,
That's not packs. That's not cases.
that's true.
Our apartments are small. So it's kind of funny. So it would be great. The very first 7-Eleven just opened recently in Israel within the last 2 months.
All right.
Um, I've never been a 7-Eleven Slurpee fan. I mean, the irony is that also was not big in New York City.
Yeah.
7-Elevens, people just, as they're traveling, they go to a rest stop, those kind of things. So we'll see. We'll see. Anything that could help lower the price of food in Israel,
Would be good.
I'm for.
I'm just kind of thinking about, I'm not a Costco Sam's Club fan because I don't like crowds. And, the people in Costco here and Sam's Club are rude enough. Um, you know, put that into the Israeli culture. We really got something.
That's scary. That's scary.
Yeah, it is. Well, there's been a number of things that have come to Israel that didn't make it. Dunkin' Donuts was one. What the difference in sweetness on a sweet scale between what is the palate of Israel and what is the palate of America.
Yeah.
There was a Dunkin' Donuts right off of Ben Yehuda Street there on Jaffa, I think it was, and they said it was too sweet.
It's interesting in the same way that Starbucks did not make it in Israel, because Israel, you see, for those who haven't yet been to Israel, they wouldn't know this, but we experience it all the time. Israel has a well-established coffee culture. That's kind of the part of Europe that Israel internalized.
Hmm.
So there are chains, excuse me. There's Aroma, there's Cafe Hillel. There's all these different chains. Israelis are used to their coffee. They're used to the way they like it. Not being a coffee drinker, I couldn't compare it, but things that are necessarily big in America aren't, you won't necessarily work in a foreign country, which is
Hmm.
why, American fast food chains adapt elements of their menus when they go to a foreign country.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, McDonald's has had to. You don't go to McDonald's and have a cheeseburger.
Well, I don't just mean in Israel.
Yeah.
I mean, elsewhere in the world.
Oh yeah.
They do do cheeseburgers in Israel,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact.
I
They're
l-
not kosher McDonald's.
I actually went to McDonald's in Belgium. No, I was in Holland. I was the day that I went to Corey Ten Boom's house, and there was a McDonald's right there. And I said to my host, I said, "Hey, let's go to McDonald's." And they said, "You're crazy." I said, "Yeah, I know, but and it was actually better than it is here."
That's so funny. That is
Mm.
really funny.
Okay, so the life and journeys of Hanok is you're kind of on the back side here, going up
Yeah, heading
to
up.
see baby and
Yeah, heading up. Wow, when? Tomorrow evening. Hashem willing, I will be in New York. So I'll be in New York, I guess, for about, I didn't count, I think it's about 9 days.
mhm.
The Brit Milah will be in there sometime. Other than my own, which I have no recollection of, I have only been to a Brit Milah twice.
Ah,
It's not exactly the element of Jewish life that I tend to like really look forward to.
mhm.
Um, a little unsettling. And then I'll be going for 2 days to an FFOZ conference in Orlando. They invited me to come down. I'm not speaking there, but I'll be able to connect with people that I recently guided for them, people that I'll be guiding in the coming, now in 2023. So that should be interesting. And then I'll be flying home from Miami, LL flight direct from Miami.
Mm.
So I,
And
of
you,
course, had no idea how far Orlando was from Miami, but figuring that
uh,
out.
yeah, it's only it's about a 45-minute flight. It's not bad.
Yeah,
Unless you're driving, then it's a little bit going to take a little while. But
yeah.
and of course you have I've already given you a an assignment as soon as you get back to go up to the Rova and to give blessings to Simca and Avikai as the what is that, the hole in the wall, is that it?
Is it, I think, is it off the wall?
Off the wall, yeah, off the wall. It's right there at the little shop next to the broad wall.
Yeah,
And really good friends. Anybody that's going to Israel, if you're not going on the Connect tour, I don't know why you would do that, but
yeah.
make sure that you go and you walk in and you give Avikai and Simca our regards. Just mention my name and Halok's, and you might even get a free iced coffee for that.
It's worth the gamble.
It's some of the best. It is. It really is. So, all right. Well, safe travels, and hopefully you'll have a connection up there in New York next week.
Yeah, yeah. From what I hear, they do have internet. Let's see.
We'll find out.
Take
All
care.
right.
Regards. Bye bye.
Till next week.